So I figured out what the Lagoon Rod from Spectrum is all for. It's for committing crimes against nature. So many crimes against nature. Because crimes against nature are what we do on another episode of Statech Industry. Now, I should be clear, this is not another episode about Spectrum because I think we all kind of need a break right now from that. Yeah, the last two kind of went forever, huh? But I do want to mention a couple things about the Lagoon Rod while I've got you here. One, it pretty much does what it says here. It can pull in living animals. But it's at about the same rate as the rarer treasures, so don't expect it to be fast regardless of what editing magic I might have just done. Two, inside the instructions, it also mentions something about the bobber. Well, if you aren't in enough water, you can't fish up the rarer treasures. You see how the bobber is red there. If we go further out, the bobber turns green. And that denotes that we are in deep enough water to pull up special loot. And 3, the Lagoon Rod does come with an innate Lure 3 enchantment, which if you then go and immediately toss it into the enchanter, you can't enchant it because of that. But that can be scrubbed right off of it. And you can shove on whatever enchants you want at that point. As you can see, I have a much better one made, which is what I was doing this with. So yeah, I think that's about enough Spectrum for 1 week, huh? I guess this means I need to go clean up my electronic circuit processing and stop pretending we're going to do magic, eh? Alright, I feel a little bit better now that I've done some basic and overdue cleanup here, so now we at least have the electronic circuits properly set up to automate out faster. But this means that it's finally time to move on, and we are actually going to go into space today. I mean, assuming I haven't missed a bottleneck here, but I don't think I have. And actually get started on the Ad Astra mod, which requires making all of these basic machines here, as well as Enderium ingots. So I guess let's get started with where we got stuck the other day with needing to make the boosted diesel and make the fuel refinery here so we can convert the boosted diesel into the rocket fuel that we need. And really the only complicated part about this is that I manually have to make 4 large steel plates. And then I think the best place for that is right here where the wall ends, and I haven't cleaned up any of the stuff I need to tear out still. This is actually going to cause me problems later in this episode. Just wait and see. Oh, and I probably should check the cables to make sure I'm not about to max things out first, huh? Okay, looks like we're okay. But this mostly just means slapping export and import buses on it and piping it everything in and out. And despite this claiming it has enough, we are apparently missing a channel here. That's worrying. Oh yeah, no, we're at 6464 where it rejoins the main trunk into the P2P tunnel. Of course, we can't have anything easy here. Alright, so I got it fixed. I basically changed this top trunk to be dyed black. So you can see where it changes color right here so that it doesn't link with the blue one here that I changed as well. And down here I have it outputting a new trunk on a new P2P channel as green. So if we watch this, you can see that it's slowly building up a small amount and immediately dumping out the fuel. Which just means I now need to add a small fluid storage cell, set it up to take some fuel, and slap it in one of my few remaining open slots. You can see now we have the fuel being made. And of course I need to get a bucket, and I didn't get a bucket. Fine. There we go. We are also going to need entangled tanks to be able to transport the fluid possibly to other planets for the launch pads. Although realistically I think we're just going to use waystones, so that probably isn't an issue, but I'm going to want to be able to transport the fuel down to a launch pad somewhere. Alright, similarly to converting boosted diesel into fuel, we also need to convert modern industrialization oxygen into Ad Astra oxygen, which needs the oxygen loader, which is slightly more complicated. We need some oxygen tanks and an engine fan, but realistically this is just more steel. And slightly more complicated, now we need the molten Enderium, so we can't actually make this yet because we also need the rocket part assembler. Why are these shown as forks in the quest log? This is not able to be done parallel. Like I was saying, we're going to make molten Enderium, which starts with making liquid ender. And this tells us that you either want to have ender pearls coming in from a farm or via a mob crusher for endermen. I think our mob farm will suffice for now. We've got plenty of ender pearls for the meantime. But this mostly requires making an electric mixer, taking water, combining it with ender pearl dust, which we can do by grinding up ender pearls in a macerator. Although, man, that conversion rate is going to be terrible. But hey, at least I have a bank of machines right here next to my ME system that I can build off of to just quickly get all of this set up, although I need to go dump the ender pearl dust somewhere. Or, you know, by somewhere, I think I mean right here in this drawer where I already have it coming in from my recyclers. We just need to undo that, and I think downgrade it. The mixer, however, is going to go over here because it does process a liquid. Yeah, this is already deeply problematic. We're not even the part I was worried about. All right, 1 bucket of liquid ender obtained, which is not the thing we needed because we need molten Enderium, which requires liquid ender going into a blast furnace. You know, this recipe right here, which is thankfully just some steel dust. All right, so I got the blast furnace, the molten Enderium set up, and it's pretty much set up the same as normal, but I realized something while making it and setting up the liquid ender tank, and that's that I need another ender tank up here to extract it, which that's all fine and dandy. I just need to put it right there, but I'm getting really low on blaze rods from my mob farm, so I decided it was time to do something about that. Because the only way for me to get the blaze rods was to sit down on my mob farm and wait for them to spawn because it was using a spawner. So, I got around to making the mob crushers, and they're over there. And I've got this cluster of machines set up right here to automate making the models for them. These are like the drills for the quarries. And as you can see, I'm waiting for more blaze rods, but that's because the mob crusher for the blazes is running currently. You can see it going right here. So now it's just a matter of getting it to speed up. And the setup of this is pretty much the same as the greenhouses downstairs for the trees. It's just surrounding copper nickel coils for the most part. And I am feeding lava into this one and liquid ender into the one for Endermen. These feed into the input here because both of these require a fluid to kick it off, but they actually return more fluid than they used. So I've got these, first of all, coming out of the output, trying to feed back into the input as the highest priority, then into the ender tank as the second highest, and then failing that into the trash can. Because honestly, if the storage for those is full, we don't care anymore. And then the tops are pretty much what you would expect. It's the models in the input and the items in the output, and I really need to do something with these nuggets. But that will solve my resource problem for both ender pearls and blaze rods if they become issues from here on out in the future. Done and done. Now, however, what I need to do is set up another blast furnace, because to process the molten Enderium, we have to combine it with stainless steel dust now to create the hot ingot, and then we cool that as per the norm in a vacuum freezer. So back to the mindless monotony that we've repeated time after time after time here. All right, with a little bit of effort there, I now have the Enderium ingot. There was kind of a problem sitting at the blast furnaces I probably should mention here, because these blast furnaces do take stainless steel dust here, which I'll notice what turns into hot stainless steel somewhere down there. You need to make sure that your output item hatch is already set the Enderium hot ingot and the other one is locked. Otherwise, you will very annoyingly just get hot stainless steel ingots. So save yourself some trouble there, because I sure didn't. But this now means we have the Enderium ingot line done, which means we're one step closer to the rocket, and now we can actually move into the rest of this. Starting with the oxygen loader, which required the engine fan, which required molten Enderium, which I now have. But we need to make the rocket part assembler first, but this thankfully does not require any of that. This, however, requires I find a home for it. I'm starting to run out of spots on this wall real fast, but I guess we'll do it right here. Well, you know what? Looking into this is something I'm only going to use a handful of times, and I'm probably going to want to just use it manually from the looks of it. So I think I'm actually going to go put this somewhere I can do it standalone. Fine, we'll just drop it right here for right now. I just upgraded the wireless charger behind it to an advanced one so it can at least reach. Although it's going to look kind of junky there. So now we can put the molten Enderium in. And then we can just add the rotor, the rods, and the motor, and wait 45 hideously long seconds. While this is going on, we can make the 2 oxygen tanks now, and finally pull out the engine fan, and make yield oxygen loader, which we will then have to punch a new hole over here and eventually get around to filling in to put it next to the fuel loader. This isn't a problem at all. And now we have Ad Astra oxygen sitting in our ME drive. And apparently it didn't count the oxygen tank that I was holding for some reason previously. There, easily enough solved. So now we are going to need the spacesuit parts, and most of them are pretty simple. They're all just done in an assembler, so I'll just go create a single purpose one somewhere, probably next to the rocket thingamabobber. And these are just like steel and wool for the most part, except for the suit itself, which requires oxygen gear. But that's just another normal crafting recipe. I guess it's good that I left the standalone assembler here by my blast furnace setup that I've been using forever. Why didn't I just bring the rocket thing up here? I need to go do that. All right, better. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now we're all suited up. Though I feel very, very naked without the nano armor. But it's even got a little backpack to go with the spacesuit, just like real life. And there goes my night vision. But that brings us to the NASA workbench, which is used to make the rocket. And this is just pretty simple. And we can go from there into an automated version for modern industrialization, which is just a little bit more circuitry on top of that. So there and there. Then we can just put this down on top of the parts assembler. So that just gets us to the last two steps, the launch pad and the fuel loader. The launch pad is just a bunch of large plates, iron and steel, so that's easy. And the fuel loader is just another machine as normal, although we will need to get the fuel into it wherever we're going to put the launch pad. So there we go. We're going to make two of these so that we have a backup if we need one on the moon. And the fuel loader. All right, so now what we need to do is actually make the rocket. And this is mostly just a bunch of blocks of Enderium, which I should have at this point. A rocket nose cone, which thankfully we've already made the synthetic redstone crystals. Some rocket fins, which is just a bunch of steel. Some tanks, which is advanced pumps and some more steel. And then the engine, which is the fan and the engine frame, which is just more steel. So as I'm not going to be automating this, it's time for me to go do a bunch of microcrafting in this rocket assembler right here. I'm sure this won't get annoying at all. Actually, hold on. You know, I've rethought my plan to do a bunch of microcrafting here, and I'm actually going to move the rocket assembler over to my ME lab and set it up with a pattern processor. That should actually get me through this a lot easier. Okay, yeah, this is a much better plan. We now have the pieces being automatically made via the AE2 system, and it just required setting up basic pattern providers. All of the recipes are set up for this assembler, and the rocket's set up in this one. That said, I have no idea if the rocket will auto-input back in, but that part I'm less worried about. We just need to wait for these tanks to finish up so I can kick off the final recipe. All right, now to see if we can properly kick off the rocket here. Which is going to start by having to make the fan and the engine, but that's okay. And here we go, finally. Tier 1 rocket achieved, and I'm glad this continues the Galacticraft tradition of carrying this massive thing over my head. But all of that means that I think we are about ready to go to the moon. So I prepped a few other things for this trip to get us ready. One, I made 2 entangled tanks, one for fuel and one for oxygen in case we need either to get home. The oxygen shouldn't be the issue because I'm also packing a waystone, and that should be able to get us back no problem. Once we're there, we're going to need the means to set up a quarry. And I think to do that, we're going to have to roll back a step here to the electrical age to finally make the Tech Reborn quarry over here, which requires filling out some of the other stuff here. But overall, while this looks scary, this is pretty remedial at this point. But I'll worry about that after we successfully get to the moon. And I guess the thing we should do still before I forget is enchant the spacesuit to try to get at least more than just no defense on it. All right, so I set up the fuel loader. I think I've got it all set up to go now. If we shift right click the rocket, we can see that it is loaded with fuel, so we're good to go there. I have the entangled tank with enough fuel to get back if I have to. I have a bucket to load with. I have 2 full oxygen tanks. The spacesuit is also filled up. I have my weapons and my tools and the waystone. I think we're good to go here if I can figure out what I need to do to start this. Oh, it's just the spacebar, and up and away we go. And this is at least less jerky than advanced rocketry was, at least so far. And there's our big huge temple going away real fast. Alright, and now we are in space. Click the solar system, click Earth, and click the moon. And now it is complaining about a warning. I'm not sure what the warning's about. Here we go on to the moon. Bounce, bounce, bounce. And that appeared to blow up my rocket. That seems bad. Well, we're going to have to rebuild the rocket at some point, but it's a good thing I brought a waystone, so we don't have to worry about that anytime soon. The moon. Man, that wasn't smart, was it? Well, at least there are prospectors' pockets so we can tell where we generally need to go to find stuff on the moon here. The Desh is right where we landed, as well as cheese ore. And there's a building right over this way. Let's take a quick look while we have some oxygen. Oh, and this is probably the dungeon, yeah? Oh no, villagers. Well, this is at least interesting looking. Well, I'll take some free Desh ingots though, that's nice. and a bunch of free Desh ingots. Oh hey, and even more free Desh ingots, as well as some fuel. Anyhow, we successfully made it to the moon, although not in ideal circumstances. I think it's time to now head home and go make the quarry so we can go mine the Desh more easily. And once again, I have failed to read blatantly bolded text right here. Hold space while descending. So that whole warning was specifically for me. That's woo! Well, at least I don't need the rocket right now. All right, so I've got the quarry made, and I don't actually know how this works, but let's talk about this process for a minute because there's some issues. So I did automate the rolling machine on my AE2 network, except, well, let's request a batch of quarry tubes, and let's show you the problem directly. So this is actually 2 steel plates in 1 advanced alloy plate. This is just it smashed down into a plate. Seems pretty simple, right? Well, the fun news is the rolling machine will stack your resources and will not actually recognize the recipe because the recipe is that. And then it starts running. I could lock the recipe, but then I can't use blocking with the machine, and then I would need more than 1 rolling machine. At which point I'm almost better off setting up with my modern industrialization machines over there and having it create a constant stack of 64 of them. So I'm probably going to end up having to do that anyways. So I guess we should go to the moon and see how this quarry works though, huh? Alright, once again on the moon, back where we were before, and we will use the Desh samples here to determine where to put this down. So we will just drop it right here. It's going to need some power, which we will do with our usual steam turbine setup. And then we'll look inside the quarry, we'll tell it to mine ores, and we will add the quarry tubes. I have no idea how many of these we actually need. Oh wait, we want it to mine ores, not mine all. That's already a problem to begin with. From there, we are then going to output it into an entangled chest that we will then pipe back to our base. So that appeared to use up all of the quarry tubes super fast. So that's not great. Guess we're immediately coming home and making a whole bunch more. So maybe I do need to automate these in several full stacks, huh? All right, time to give this another try. Man, it just feels like it burns through these tubes though. Oh yeah, it's looking like I probably want to make some of these. I'm not actually sure how these actually work, but we definitely want fortune and we probably want the range extenders, huh? Which thankfully don't look too bad to make, at least in the earlier stages. Because so far we're not getting anything out of this into this chest. Alright, so I made a range extender upgrade level 2 and a fortune upgrade level 2. And I made a second one because I wasn't sure if they would stack, and they don't. But I can use this to upgrade to level 3 once I've got enough. But I have started getting Desh, and it looks like it's only using the quarry tubes to extend downwards, so maybe I didn't need to make a ton of these. But we are now producing it. It's down here. This is the filter blocks. These are the ones that I don't need to remove. So you know this is the one that needs to be auto outputting here. The upside is that my MB steam turbine does seem to be keeping up with this. We might be able to do some overclocker upgrades to speed it up. But these involve things I haven't had to do yet, which is mostly make these 10K water coolant cells, which isn't hard. I just would need to set up an assembler to do it. But the important part is my face has disappeared with this helmet. I'm not sure what's going on. But we now have Desh coming in, which is what we were after. Back here at my base, I have another entangled chest set up here to dump it into my drawer network. Right here, back where it all kind of started before. As you can see, the chest is already pulling a decent amount of raw Desh. We just need to process it all now. Which is simple enough. We just need to continue to uglify this section of the base and not actually fix any of the look and feel, right? Because on the upside, well, I suppose it's an upside. We can't actually macerate the raw Desh into dust, so we can only just process into ingots anyways. But this means we've completed all the steps we need to get the tier 2 rocket, which just requires a whole bunch of Desh, which we should be pretty close to having. I just need to go input this as recipes into our crafting system now. All right, once more into the fray, my friends. Bam, tier 2 rocket, Mars, here we come. You know, after I finish making all the other pieces that I need, I still need the fortune upgrade. And alright, all fueled up and ready to go to Mars. And making absolutely certain that I have the waystone, because that would be very awkward. Creepy ugly helmet on. Thrusters activated. And here we go. So from here, we go to Mars. And this time, let's maybe not blow up the rocket if I can. But it even tells me to hold space if I could just read. Although this warning message is sure making me feel like I'm going to blow the rocket up again. There we go. Safely landed this time. Oh, and hey, and there's an Ostrom sample right here at the landing point. So let's start by slapping down the waystone and getting our rocket back from the launch pad. I guess let's go slap down ye old quarry somewhere over here. Set it to mine ores, add the upgrades, and then add the quarry. I forgot to bring the rest of the quarry tubes. Dang it, I've been here 5 seconds and I already forgot something. As I was saying, add the quarry tubes. I also forgot the entangled chest. And in Nothing Is Ever Simple Land, I finally set up the vacuum freezer to process obsidian because I didn't actually have enough to make another entangled tank. Alright, back on Mars, we can see that we've already got a whole bunch of the raw ostrum, which is why we're here. So I guess we should set up the extraction for this already, huh? I will say that it is getting a bit tiring having to set this up for every single slot on these machines. But I figured while we're here, we should go take a quick look around this planet as well. I have no idea what's here other than little green monsters. Uh-oh. Are you hostile? Are you hostile? Oh, you appear to be hostile. Yep, you're hostile. Slime balls. More slime balls. And rotten flesh, so that doesn't appear to be worth my time. Well, I'm not seeing a whole lot out here other than a whole lot of raptors, so I think it's time to head home and process all of this ostrum and throw out all of this raw iron. I think we just need to throw that straight into a dumpster. This is also just as easy to set up as the Desh, so now we have ostrum ingots, which means we've completed our mission for today, which was to go get the ostrum, because we needed the ostrum to unblock the mixed blast-proof ingot over here, because this requires the ostrum as well as tungsten, which we haven't done yet, and titanium, which we have. So with that, I think I'm just going to walk over here to my usual spot, which I don't totally need to do at all, and go get all of my rewards for today to see if we get anything interesting. I think it says it all when this is the most interesting thing that we got was the pasta with mutton chops. I mean, we also got 2 of these Watcher swords, I suppose. Which, yeah, it's kind of like the Flaming Claymore, and it's big, scary, and nasty looking. It's kind of like the other sword that I got in appearance, and it, you know, it gets swingy and stabby, but, I mean, it's 12 damage unenchanted, although it can rip off a quarter of a health and absorb stuff like the other sword can, but, Anyhow, it's time to call it a day, so if you found this episode interesting and entertaining, please consider like or subscribe if you're new. As always, I'm Ard. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.